On a Thursday night in St. Louis, a group of people, predominantly women, gather to celebrate their work. The fact that many people might take several guesses about what that work is before reaching the answer is exactly what they aim to change.
Sometimes you gotta catch the light in a certain way.
Their profession and passion is science, and the way so many of them found it is the same way their group, 500 women scientists, is committed to sharing it through teaching, excitement, and awakening a sense of wonder in the next generation, particularly of girls. It's music to the ears and eyes of Kristen Onken.
It's really exciting to me because as a kid, my mom was in design. So me wanting to be a scientist, I didn't have a female in my life and that could kind of be like, yes, women can be scientists. We can be good scientists. We can be in charge of things. You know, I didn't have that support. And I don't think there weren't organizations like this when I was a kid.
One of her colleagues, Emma Young, says the route to this lab at the University of Missouri at St. Louis came a little easier for her. She's been working on her PhD studying the way malaria is transmitted between birds. She always had support for scientific exploits at home, but slowly began to see that being a woman in this predominantly male field has more challenges than it should. Sometimes it's the little things.
I've talked to folks before, and I've said something offhanded about how DNA works or something like that, and had another person try to explain that to me and have me be like, well, actually I work with it a lot. I really do know what I'm talking about. So there have been small moments like that.
She joined 500 Women Scientists because she wants to help change that. She says there is a culture change that is necessary, one that encourages the inclusion of everyone when teaching the sciences. One example that stands out.
Well, I grew up learning about DNA and Watson and Crick, discovering it, and you don't really hear about the roles that, women played in those discoveries. Rosalind Franklin played this key role in the discovery of DNA. She actually photographed the structure of DNA for the first time, and when you hear about DNA discovery, it's like Watson, Crick, and Rosalind Franklin was there. She helped.
And from there comes the seemingly simple but clearly vital task of producing numerous and visible role models for girls and young women in the science and technology fields.
I think a lot of us who grew up studying science, a lot of women growing up studying science, felt a lot of times that they didn't see people who looked like them, representing them in science. It's sort of intimidating to try to pursue a career where you're not seeing a lot of women. Girls have a proclivity towards science and math a lot of the times, but if they're not growing up in an environment where, A, they see other women in those positions being like, oh, she is so cool, I want to do that just like her, or they're not in an environment in their school or their house where they're given access early in life to toys that would encourage them to explore that interest. So some people might be excellent at science and math but never even realize it.
It goes from there to the business world. As an analytical chemist for a pharmaceutical company, being in the minority stood out to Onken the day she walked through the door.
My first job. We were a group of 15 and there were only 4 women.
And it became more pronounced as she moved up the ladder.
I never really thought it was a concern until later in my career when I started being put in leadership positions and saw that people reacted to me differently in meetings than when a man said the same thing that I just did. Or you say something and then a man repeats it and everybody's like, yes, that's brilliant. And I'm like, but I just said that.
The 500 Women Scientists were formed in 2016 and came to St. Louis in 2017. They hope to balance out this gender inequity with education, followed by numbers. If the girls they touch at 8 become science majors at 18, then they will change this field with sheer volume. As for the workplace issues, well, that depends on who you ask.
I think we'll first see a shift in there being more women, but the kind of cultural problems that exist in the sciences, I think, are going to lag a little bit behind that, unfortunately. So it'll take all those women getting there before those changes start happening.